That is correct here on the channel. Hopefully we have no issues, no technical difficulties or anything like that, because Lord knows that can be a thing. But
It can and will be.
that's
Otherwise, is it a real live stream if it happens?
yeah, that's true. That's true. That's such is my life. It's a thing. But today, as you see, I have another guest with me, and this is another Super Retro Force member, our lovely team over on the old tubes of you. And this is the creator, none other than Mr. John McBaugh. Welcome to the
Hello,
channel.
everybody, and dude, thank you for having me here. It
Absolutely.
has been a while coming, though.
Oh, yes. Yes. See, people don't know this, but see, me and John were supposed to get together. God, it probably was like back in like May or June, one of the two. It's been a long time.
Something like that.
Yeah,
It,
it's
it
been a
was
long
a it
time.
was a while ago, though.
Yes. Yes, it was. And then there was some miscommunication on my end that we should have actually done this last week. But because I didn't put the date down, being a dummy, um, like I said, miscommunication. So here we are today.
But no,
But
we're
we
doing
are
it
here.
now. We're at least it's happening now.
That's
That's the
right.
thing.
We're doing it. We're doing it now, and we're doing it live. That's right.
Exactly.
All right. So today we're going to be talking about a couple topics. Uh,
hmm
the first one is going to be, has gaming peaked? And then the other will be kind of like a combo question, if you will. And that will be, uh, do we need to continue making new video games, or at the very least, do we need to make them at the rate or frequency that we currently do? So, what I will do is, since John, you are the guest, I will let you choose which one do you want to talk about first.
Let's go with the beginning. So, like your first question, has
Has
it
gaming
reached its
peaked?
peak?
And I'll let you go if you would like it, or if you want me to start, I can start too. Either way is perfectly fine
Well,
with me.
Well, either way, we're going to be bouncing off of each other when it comes to this.
Oh
So
yeah.
let's see what we got for this.
Oh
But
yeah.
in terms of peaked, I feel like we've maybe been close to hitting that peak or have already done it
Okay.
again
Yeah.
because it has happened. Like we've had it before. Like if you remember, like the crash, I think of what the 80s or something.
Yes, the arcade crash of the 80s. Yeah.
Yep. And then arcades dying, and then we have this every new console generation and all these wonderful issues. I
Yeah.
almost thought it peaked during the end of PS3 and 360.
Yeah.
There was another one there.
Yep.
But here, I think we may have reached a peak because it's kind of become a little more stale, you could say, for releases, or we've all become atypical that it's just like, what's kind of the point?
Yeah. So like I'll speak for myself here, similar to what you were saying. I felt, because like when I think of peaking, it's not even necessarily like pushing graphical bounds or anything like that. I'm looking at
Mm,
like the entire experience that you're getting from gaming in general. And I agree that with myself personally, the 360 PS3 era was where I felt my experience peaked, because man, I can't even tell you the amount of like hype I had going into that, because uh, I was, you could kind of say I was getting back into gaming, because
mhm.
I graduated high school in 2004, and there was a couple years in between that I didn't really get a chance to like stay up to date with gaming due to, I graduated and I was trying to figure things out, so to speak, as a young adolescent adult trying to traverse the adult world, right? And I didn't really have a
And we
whole hell of a
still
lot of
kind of
money.
do to this day. We're still
Right.
figuring stuff out as
Yeah.
we go, right?
Right. Right. And so I didn't get anything that was relatively current until 2006 was when I got a PS2. So at that point, it was already, I'm on the back end of the PS2 era, right?
hmm
But I got a 360 in '07, and man, when I would finally, like, I traded, and then mine just was back when at least GameStop gave you decent trades. So when I traded in my PS2 and the games and controllers, I was actually able to trade in my stuff and got a 360
360.
pretty much out the door with no money down. And I mean, I didn't even have a whole lot either. I think I had only like 8 games for the PS2, and then I had my console and 2 controllers, and then my Guitar Hero 2 controller. That's it.
Hmm.
So, anyhow, the
I
hype
actually
I
remember
had
a
for
funny
that.
story you mentioned with that too, because I worked at an EB Games slash GameStop here
Yeah.
in Canada.
Hmm.
So yeah, because that's the other thing. You live in the States, I live in Canada. We're
Yeah.
very much next door neighbors. They're
Oh, yeah.
still kind of the same idea, but they
Yeah.
work a little differently.
Hmm.
But when I worked at EB Games, I actually had a grandma who came in and said, "I want to trade in my son's GameCube and all of his games and strategy guides. Do you take anything for this?" Sadly, that was at the time where no, we stopped taking in trades for PS2, Xbox, and GameCube. So sadly, she couldn't get anything. And then she went, "Okay, well, fine, it's yours. Take it. Just keep it." And that box consisted of a platinum GameCube, uh, Twilight Princess, the Wind Waker, the Master Collection, and the pre-order bonuses, along with strategy guides for Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, and a copy of Pikmin. So that was a nice box, and she was just like, "Here you go."
So,
You're sitting on a gold mine there, but
yeah, oh, yeah.
again, value to us.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, so my hype when I played the 360, because mind you, I did actually get to test run a 360 at my buddy's house before I bought it. And so, like,
Hmm.
my hype was, like, there because, like, the graphic, like, to me, from what I can remember, it wasn't even necessarily, I mean, the graphics did get better, don't get me wrong, from
Yeah.
PS2 to, PS3 and Xbox 360 era, but it felt like, it got smoother as well. So like
Hmm.
like that whole part of it I was like pretty hyped on, but then like the online experience, that's what I was really honest to God, I was like super hyped about that because I only got to I limitedly got to play online with the PS2. Pretty much Battlefront 2 is the main thing I played, but there was a
The big
couple other
one.
things. Yeah. Um, so when I actually got to play during that era, oh yeah, I just deep dived into gaming at that point. So from like 2007 until the PS4 era started, I mean, I was just nonstop, relentlessly playing video games. And my wife, she'll bring up to this day, like she'll call it the Guitar Hero days because probably for about 2 years straight, I mean, I was pretty much playing Guitar Hero from the time I got off work till I went to bed because I'm not saying I was the best in the world or anything like that, but I
Hmm.
know I was really, really good. And I would say, before the ranking systems all got hacked and all that crap, I mean, I could honestly say I was somewhere, if I had to take a shot in the dark, I was at least around like the 5,000 range, somewhere around there on the 360.
Which is pretty good.
Yeah. So I felt like I was doing okay for a working man just playing video games on his days off and, time outside of work. And also, while I got a moment, welcome our Super Retro Force
Go
members in
Force
the
Team.
in the chat here. We got Retro Complex, Mr. Belmont, the Mad Belmont that is. Uh,
Hmm.
and I'm assuming that's probably Rad under the Super Retro
Yeah,
Force moniker, of course.
that would
Uh,
be him because he was like that yesterday when I
Yeah.
was streaming the
eh,
crew. So
Yeah. Yeah. I hope you guys are having a damn good weekend and feel free to obviously post up in the chat anything you guys want to add to our conversation or any questions you guys may have that you want us to kind of talk about here. Um, so, yeah, I'll just end my little filibuster with yes, I feel like it certainly peaked during that era. And then going into the PS4 era is when I realized that not much really had changed. And I was starting to notice my, uh, I don't know what's the word you want to go after, but I guess you could say my mind was drifting away. Like, as far as when
hmm.
newer games were getting announced, I was kind of like, I just really wasn't caring as much as what I normally would. And I started just kind of, for lack of a better term, almost like ruining it for myself because I was just kept going, yeah, this is just like this game, but all they did was they added like a couple different things and kind of changed the designs of the characters a little bit, but it's pretty much this game. And there wasn't, I didn't feel like there was anything really fresh coming out. and I was starting to kind of feel like at that point that I was just going to be spending money on a new game for something that's pretty much something that I already have, just again with new graphics and
Better
maybe,
coat of paint,
yeah,
basically.
yeah, and that's really it. And that's kind of, and I kind of, like I said, kind of shattered the glass on myself with it and started kind of ruining the experience for me in that regard. But yeah,
Hmm.
so for me, I did feel like it peaked around there as far as the entire experience goes.
I'd probably say, yeah, like I said, PS3 360, because also during that time, that was actually the first time I took consoles online too, because I'm mostly a PC gamer, PC through and through, from start to finish, and I still am to this day. So like online was on PC, but then you were up at the times with, Counter Strike, you
Yeah,
had Quake, you had Unreal Tournament,
yeah.
you also had Age of Empires
Oh, I
or
loved Age of Empires
StarCraft.
and StarCraft. Oh, so good. So good.
Yeah, but no, those were like where my experiences were. So like finally getting to play a console game online, and
Yeah,
ironically enough, it was Resistance 2. That was the first one I actually took online
yeah,
for me at the time, because I didn't buy Xbox Live or anything, even though you bought stuff from the marketplace like for arcade games.
yeah,
But like we were starting to see like better IPs and stuff, but it started to kind of like taper off. Like let's say PS4 and Xbox One, it's more like refinement if anything,
yeah.
you could say. Like
Right.
we were still getting the same experiences, but maybe a little bit better, but maybe one or two new things here and there.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
that
and
was
that
really it.
right. That's I can definitely agree with that. Like there was, I'm not gonna totally dump on the PS4 because I did enjoy it. It's just that's when I
Hmm.
started noticing the intrigue was coming down. I wasn't like with every console that came out from the time I can remember. Even as far as going back when I first got a Genesis, from that point on, every single console, there was always like the hype train was real. You know what I mean? And everybody's just like just gritting their teeth and just balling their fists like, come on, we want something new. And then going into the PS4, I realized I was kind of just like, okay,
Yeah, they're here. They're
yeah.
here.
And then I was just like,
I
oh
still
wow,
think I still think PlayStation had one of the best pieces of advertising out there, because basically, if you remember the press conferences that were held at E3 during that time for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One.
no, I missed out on that.
Okay. Because that's the one thing that really made it interesting, because Microsoft's like thing was you needed to be online in order to use your system.
Okay.
And if you weren't within 24 hours, you lost access to that kind of stuff. And you couldn't play used games on the thing.
Oh geez.
So Microsoft was kind of incorporating like a DRM of sorts, like kind of what you saw on PC and stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas Sony, on the other hand, they came out, you can play used games, you don't need to be online to play your single player games, and it doesn't stop working within 24 hours. So that basically won them the battle. So I think that was maybe the one big interesting thing when it started in that era. But that's all people were talking about.
Yeah.
And then also the $100 price difference between the
Oh
systems.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I do remember that
Like
at least. I
that,
remember the price difference, yes.
yeah, like that was a big deal
Yeah.
at the time. And you got a more powerful box for $100 cheaper.
Yeah.
I think that like single-handedly won Sony back, because of, let's face it, PS3 did not start very well, right?
Yeah.
But then when we get the PS5, like this new era, it's just like, what is there?
Yeah.
Let's admit, we're not going to say it's not completely bad. There are things worth playing, we're seeing, but it's like maybe one or two things that just get us intrigued.
Yeah, that's something that I talked about with Caesar. I believe I can't remember if I actually talked with him about that when we were live streaming, or if this was before or after we were done. But I told him, I said, I said it sucks that my brain has shifted in this direction because here I got a PS5 that's right next to me, right?
Hmm.
I really don't care if I play it or not, and I only have about 6 or 7 games for it, and I've had it for just over 2 years now.
Hmm.
And my like I said, my care level, it ain't even there. And I just told him, I said, this will be the first time in my life that I haven't gotten a next gen console of any kind because I have zero intentions on getting whatever the PS6 is or the new Xbox. I mean, possibly the new Nintendo console. I might, depending on what it is, because we don't know what that's going to be yet. But as far as anything Xbox or PlayStation related, this will be the first time I just don't get anything because I feel that there is no need for it at this point. And kind of piggybacking off of his and I's conversation, which was the whole thing of it's getting to the point now, and I'll speak for myself here because I do have a gaming PC, and it's like, why bother? I mean, at this point, we're just kind of pushing consoles to be gaming PCs. So if that's the case, then why not just keep gaming on my PC? you know?
And that's pretty much what it is. And I think it's this gen now we've hit that most are hitting that realization that like
Yeah.
because I have a gaming PC, I'll use it. I think the only reason we go with consoles is exclusives.
Yeah.
And even that system's changing now, which personally I think that's for the better. Like
Yeah.
exclusives do sell, but you want to put them out on as many platforms as possible. And
Yeah.
I know that's going to upset a lot of fanboys and fangirls, right?
Oh, yeah.
But exclusives, like that's what sold your systems.
Exactly. No,
Those
it did.
what's and they don't really anymore. You're getting them on PC. Like, yeah, you're not going to get them day and date immediately,
Yeah.
but the fact that hey, you're getting them later, and you're possibly getting better improvements with it on PC, you may as well just spend your money on a computer. Like that's the same thought process going into what the PS5 Pro is.
Exactly. And just going to jump, see what the people in the chat are saying here.
Yep.
So going back,
Let's see.
Frank said PS4 was the peak of games for him
Mm-hmm.
and said PS5, the downfall. And then we got Shinky says, I like my PS5, but I understand why people would feel underwhelmed. I blame I'm assuming PC because it says the C world, so I'm assuming PC world for stifling game production around when it launched.
It could be you could mean PC with that. But
Yeah.
I want to say like the other things that's also making it like peaking and also waning. Why are we going into so many live service stuff? Because I feel
Yeah.
like we're at like the ridiculous point where everything apparently needs to be live service.
Mm-hmm.
Everything needs to be at least open world, or your game needs to be like an insane amount of hours.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's another thing that's making it peak and feel like this is becoming kind of boring.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one thing that I believe he and I had talked about too. It's you have these services that with the whole Xbox thing, they're like, oh, you can play Xbox games through a Fire Stick. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, then at that point, now you're just basically shooting yourself in the foot because now you're eliminating their needing to even be a console, So it's kind of a weird time that we're in, definitely, as to how things are going to start transpiring over the next few years.
Yeah, because I see like everyone's trying to push cloud service as a
Mm-hmm.
thing, but I still feel like there will be a spot for a dedicated box or something. Because let's face it, in order to use your streaming, you need good internet, right?
Yep.
And how many people have good internet these days? Not a lot.
Not a
It's
lot.
getting better though,
Yeah.
but I think there still will be a market for it, but maybe not as huge as it used to be anymore. Because the consoles don't make you money. We know that for a fact.
Right. They always take a hit on the consoles and try to make it up with the games.
Yeah, but the games and your services. So like
Yeah.
Microsoft's making their money on Game Pass, Sony with PS Plus.
Yeah.
But even those are starting to wane too, because what is it? Microsoft doesn't seem to be gaining new subscribers really anymore with
No,
Game Pass, it seems like.
that's what I've been hearing too. I've been hearing it's kind of like either stagnant or on a decline from what I've been hearing, anyways, from people that I
Mm-hmm.
know that either have had it or, they do have it and they're contemplating on just getting rid of it as well.
Yeah, because like that's actually my thought process too. Like I have Plus, I have Game Pass, and I use them kind of seldomly.
Yeah.
Like they're cool to have, but the thing is we need these if we're going to be playing online. Like say if we want to play online together, you sadly need it in order for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And the only other thing I'll say is like, I think the only other thing that you could do, like just for argument's sake, if we're both saying it has peaked, The only thing in my mind that, and I'll grant it, there could be things that I just don't know because I mean, I'm just a stupid guy, right? I don't know everything. This is just how
We're
my
both
brain
just
works,
guys here.
okay? The only thing I
Yeah.
could think that they could do to like bring that hype back is legit full VR where you're, using your body in, in certain aspects of whatever games it is that you're playing. And I know you kind of get that with certain games like that you're using the VR headsets and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But obviously there is a ways to go with that technology. It's still there's ways to make it more, I guess you could say, more interactive with your body as far as more what's the word I'm looking for here? I guess fine
Accessories or stuff that you got to
accessories
put
or
on
fine
or use.
tune something. Yeah, but there's stuff that you could do to upgrade that experience. And um, I mean, because to me, this is just me. Again,
Hmm.
I'm old man, get off my lawn. I know I'm not a 20 something year old kid anymore, but I could care less about graphics and refresh rates as long as the game is good at the end of the
Hmm.
day. I'll be honest, if they just wanted to peak graphics at PS3 360 era, I'd be okay with that. I don't know. That's just me. I'd be perfectly fine because I mean they were still making quality games back then, and I would play those games 1,000 times over that I played on the 360, probably before I played anything on PS5 or PS4 at the rate at which I played those games.
I feel like that's true. Like graphics, like they do matter to some. They're not, I think, a high priority anymore. I think the biggest thing we'd be looking for now, performance.
Yeah,
I just want something to be stable. I want something to be stable. Like I still want it to look good. I want it to play well. I want it to be technically sound. Like I don't want to have to wait for patches or things for it to make it work down the road. Because that's the
yeah,
other thing, at least with gaming, even starting around PS4 and stuff, that it was like, oh, our game's out. It's busted. Give
yeah,
us 6 months to a year to fix this.
exactly.
We don't need that. But also, like, I can see the idea of VR being the thing of the future, and that can definitely be refined,
Yeah,
which I would agree. That's probably where things are going to go at some point. But it just, again, needs that refinement.
yeah,
I honestly think gaming now, like I said, we don't need anything bigger scale. Can we just get like smaller scale experiences? Like, what's wrong with, say, I don't know, a 5 to 20 hour game or something that feels refined, condensed, and fun? We could just use more stuff like that. And if I'm gonna go back to the old man route of like how gaming used to be back in my day,
yeah, yep.
we're split screen. Can we get that back? Can we get back local co-op games
Oh
too?
yeah,
Am I
local
asking too
co-op.
much?
No, and that's one thing that I think part of it has kind of when I think about things, that's possibly part of why I think it has peaked because as far as going to the experience, because even during the 360 PS3 era, I was still playing co-op with buddies of mine, and then by the
Hmm.
time PS4 came out, it was like nobody wanted to do couch co-op anymore. It was always like, "Hey man, are you gonna log on tonight or whatever?" You know what I mean? It was never, "Oh hey, I'm gonna stop over." Or, "Hey, do you want to stop over?" It was just, "Hey, are you gonna log on?" And then we'll just BS through there, and that would be it. There would be no experience of sitting right next to your buddy, slapping him in the back of the head when he does something to aggravate you or whatever.
No
uh,
throwing controllers at people
it-
because you took a star from them in Mario Party.
right. Exactly.
Because I feel like we've hit the point, like, because this is what kind of PC was back in the day too. Because PC didn't have too much for like the split screens because you were playing online
Yeah.
with you, like I said, with Counter Strike, with Quake, and all that. So it makes sense to go that route. I feel like consoles just basically now caught up to what PC was back in the late '90s, early 2000s.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's where sadly, I'm not saying it's the death of consoles. Don't
No,
take what I'm saying out of context, people. I'm not saying consoles are dead. All I'm just saying is it just as of right now, it's getting to the point of
we're in a
why.
slump.
It's like why? You're not giving me a reason really to continue on it. And it's a sad situation because I love console gaming. I'm not like a strict PC gaming guy. I'll play games on whatever, but I do love consoles. You know, I mean, I've always loved that about gaming.
Yeah, because for me it was mostly PC because that's what I grew up on. I did have a console here or there, but I understand at least like playing both what there is, and they each have their own sets of benefits. Like I would love to, like if you gave me the choice, I'd still pick PC anytime though. But I understand why consoles exist, and like they need to still have the things that make them stand out
Yeah,
and what makes them fun. We're losing that now because everything's just becoming, it feels consolidated, or you either do it this way and that's it. I
yeah,
think in terms of the companies, that's what at least Sony and Microsoft are doing. Nintendo does beat to their own drum,
which
but
is
at
good.
some point like they're gonna have to cave in at some point and like get rid of exclusivity and put their stuff on other platforms.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's another thing that Caesar and I talked about. I think that's like the one thing. Like, as much I know I get where the argument is why you think that, and I totally understand. I think how they do it is what sets them apart, and why the
Hmm.
intrigue is always there with their products is because of how they've done things. Because they're the one company now that is the ones, not staying on the same path as the other two, because PlayStation, Xbox, it's pretty much the same thing at this point. And there really
Essentially,
isn't,
yeah.
yeah, there really isn't much difference in between the two. Whereas you look at what Nintendo's doing, and it is different, and it's
Hmm.
different games and, different styles. And of course, you know, people say, well, that's because they try to target a family friendly demographic and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean
I mean,
that's like an old argument, and
right.
it works sometimes. But they do different things.
Yes. And I think I'm not saying that they would like go up under or anything like that, but I think,
Mm-mm.
just trying to think on the fly, but I would think that long term, I think they would be doing themselves a disservice if they started to have some of their exclusives start going to other platforms, rather be PC, excuse me, or you know Sony or Microsoft, if Microsoft is still in the game at that point. Um,
Yeah, that's true.
but that's just my own opinion on it. But I mean, that's my opinion. I'm totally could be
No, that
wrong,
and
but
that's
that's just
fair.
my thoughts.
But I feel like Nintendo is like they're still in a good spot right now, and I feel like it's not going to happen anytime soon. But it's an eventual reality. I think that will probably happen at some point. It's just we're not going to see it immediately. Like they're still doing well. Like they actually saved themselves with the Switch.
Yeah,
Because I mean, if the Switch wasn't a success, what would be next for them? What would they do?
yeah. Um. So just
Oh,
getting
but we
back.
got some more people in here in comments.
Yeah, I
What do
see
they
this.
gotta say?
So Fat Boys Gaming and Nonsense says, well, Nintendo technically make a handheld, not a console. I've personally been boycotting Xbox and PlayStation since they've been pushing the non-physical lifestyle slash wokeness, and that they have not
I
turned
like
on
how that's said.
right, and they have not turned on their Xbox One since 2017, and uh, yeah, I mean,
Radical Reggie.
I don't personally like the idea, which this is a whole other conversation. But yes, I am a proponent for physical media, and I'll just
Hmm.
say that without going into the theatrics. But I'm totally against digital media as far as I'd like it as an alternative. But I don't like anything just being there's just one thing. I don't like that. I like there being options. It shouldn't just be, you know, I mean, even if it was all physical, I mean, as much as I like physical media, I do like the idea again that digital is a thing, just not something that I would personally want to have as being the end all be all to all media, rather it's TV, movies, gaming, etc. But
Hmm.
yeah.
I feel like that's a topic we could all go. We could just go down a rabbit hole
Oh
for
yeah.
because, like, I'm with you on the prospect. I would rather have physical than digital.
Yes.
I think the only reason we would consider digital if it's like significantly cheaper than what a physical copy is. But they could both come out at like the same prices. We should save that for another conversation
Oh yeah.
another day, I think.
So, uh,
But
Radical Reggie here, or the real Radical Reggie rather, is saying Microsoft is the second largest maker of games in the world. How would they ever leave the game? So, when I say leave the game, I mean consoles.
yeah.
So, because based off of what they're kind of pushing right now is their service, right? So, what I'm speculating. It's just all theory, right? It's for the
Hmm.
sake of conversation with the evidence you got presented to you. So they're pushing digital media like crazy. They're pushing their service like crazy. Like we were saying earlier, you can play it on a Fire Stick, right? So they're basically shooting themselves in the foot by saying that, like, oh, you can play our stuff without even having a console. And why would a company do that unless maybe, I mean, this is just, again, me just airing my own thoughts, but I'm looking at it as maybe they're contemplating on getting out of the console game and just trying to provide a service and then maybe just being like a developer company and then that would be it.
I have a feeling like they're going. It's probably going to be like the Sega route, but unlike it's because of poor sales and everything. Even though that's probably a factor,
Yeah.
but Microsoft will go back to being a publisher because that's what they did with PC. I remember back in the day, like with their releases, they were mostly just publishing and maybe sometimes developing like PC games
Yeah.
and going that route, which is what I think this is going through. But if we're going to see that, I have a feeling with Xbox, and somebody told me this, and I feel like it's accurate. It's not Xbox Game Studios anymore.
Yeah.
It's Microsoft Game Studios.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is. And Microsoft, we know, was big on pushing their services. Like, yeah, hell, look at Windows at that point. Look at Office.
Yep.
That's what they're doing. And
Correct.
that's what they're trying to do with the gaming division now.
Yep. Just that way they know they have constant revenue coming in without having to, I guess you could say, put out any extra content per se, and the content being the physical things, the physical discs, the physical consoles, the controllers. Now maybe they might still make controllers because they might still want to make accessories and stuff because there are people that
Hmm.
prefer maybe Xbox controllers over PlayStation controllers and stuff like that. But as far as consoles and obviously as they're talking about as far as uh, Rad and Reggie in the chat talking about the push of digital media even by Sony, which is true. I'm not saying that Sony's not doing it
Yeah.
either. I'm not
No.
suggesting that at all. Because at the end of the day, I think they all want digital media because they know that it'd be just better profit margins for them at the end of the day because they're spending less money because they're not paying for all the CDs, they're not paying for the cases, they're not paying for the stuff, for the
There are
consoles and
more
stuff
fees
like
of
that.
distribution and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because again, you look at Steam, you look at how PC's been doing it
Right.
for like the last decade or two.
Yeah.
They're basically wanting to get that model now. And this is what Microsoft actually was trying to push, I feel like, at first with Xbox One, but there was so much backlash for it. They stuck with the traditional route, and we're getting that now here. So, like this, I don't think this will be the end for physical. We're not there yet. The next one's going to be.
So yes, Shinky saying, honestly, I can see the PS6 being the final gen for physical gaming. If it even has a disk drive, PS5 may quite possibly be the end of physical gaming outside of Nintendo.
Hmm.
And then,
So, like, they're both pushing for it.
yeah,
We knew what's coming.
we,
It is. It's just a
yeah.
matter of like when is it going to happen.
And the irony is, I'm not gonna say it's just like the younger generations or anything like that. I'm not trying to say it's all their fault because people my age and older are just as at fault for this stuff going on. But it's
Yeah.
the kind of the I don't want to say I told you so moment, but like years ago, I used to try to explain to my nephews because they used to always give me crap because of the physical stuff that I got. They're like, "Why do you got all this stuff?" and blah blah. It just takes up space and blah 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 blah. Why don't you just go digital, get digital stuff? And I'm like, well, I said, you guys don't think about these things. You just think that it's always going to be there, right? I said, this is, it's going to sound kind of conspiracy theory, if you will, but at the end of the day, they can flip a switch and just turn it off. And then you got nothing. And you just dumped all that cash into something that now is gone. And there's nothing you can do about it because some terms of service crap. And that's it. And then you got nothing. Whereas that game, yeah, it might be sitting there collecting dust, but at any point in time, I can go over there, pick it up, put it in whatever console I have, and play that game. And nobody
Hmm.
can tell me I can't. You know what I mean? And,
Yeah, you for digital, you own a license.
yes.
You don't own a copy. That's all it is. And we've already seen examples of this before. Like this might be a bad example just because it happened recently, but Concord's a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Look at Marvel vs. Capcom 2 when it came out on PS3 and 360. Look at Scott Pilgrim. Same examples. You bought it, they delisted it. You don't own it anymore. You
Yeah.
could still technically download it if you could, but that's really it.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of the scary era. Like, yes, physical takes up space. We're not going to deny that.
Yes.
But you have memories and you can look at those and you have something tangible. But then maybe
Exactly.
this is just the old school mindset of it. Like,
Yeah.
I'd like to see what I own and I'd like to actually have it.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. And as
It's the
long
same
as
thing with music.
yep. Same thing with music, man. No, I get it.
I I tried it. I actually tried going digital with music, and it was a little more difficult than I thought it would be. And with that, I've now decided to try and go back and buy CDs again because I'd rather actually own the disc in my hand. I'd like to look at the artwork if there is any.
Yep.
Same thing with actually reading the book. And then, like,
Yep.
yes, you rip it digitally. You can rip it to your computer, and then you have the digital files, and then that's maybe it. But you still have the disc. You still own an actual copy of it, and you're not tied down to a DRM system.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Cause I'll be honest, like I'm in like a pivotal point like you is with music. I prefer to buy CDs. I'll try to buy CDs when I can, but I'm
Hmm.
also, excuse me, at the point where I know I listen to so many different artists and stuff like that that it probably would be physically impossible for me to buy every CD of every
In
artist that I
existence.
listen to, and that's the sad reality of it. So you get pushed into that corner. Well, I guess I'll pay for the service because otherwise I wouldn't be able to listen to it, right? But at the
But
same
then you
time,
also have
I try to
the
piece it
calendar.
in every now and again. Like, what's the stuff that I really, really love? You know what I mean? So I'll buy that stuff and then try to kind of work my way back as best I can. But yeah, if I can, I would prefer to definitely have my own physical copies of CDs and stuff.
Hmm. And yeah, I'm just reading Radical Reggie's comment. PC gamers have not had physical media in 15 years. Console gamers are just gonna have to get used to it. Like I'm a PC gamer, I get it, I understand, and I still would love to have like a physical copy of a game, or like say even I'll take it on like a USB drive. Like if you could do store it on here,
Yeah.
it's still kind of fine. At least it's some form of physical. But the biggest thing is just like security measures and DRM. Like
I should be able to play
no
my games
security.
without internet. That's the thing. That's my whole thing.
Hmm.
And I don't like the idea of you have to have the internet to play a game. It's like, why? If I'm playing a one player game, why do I need internet access? I'm
Yeah.
playing by
Good.
myself. There should be no reason. Like, for instance, I'm going to go way back, but I used to play Diablo 2 like it was going out of style back in the day, right?
Yep, great game.
And I love playing Diablo offline as much as I did play it a lot online, but I loved playing it offline. I liked the idea that cuz back in the day of old 56K internet, you had to basically fight somebody to get on the internet because it took up your phone line, right? So
Yeah.
I was used to playing offline because during the day I couldn't play online because everybody's waiting for phone calls. But when I knew, like, when everybody was going to bed and stuff, well, then now that's when I was playing Diablo and I'd get online and play. But this idea that, like, if they stripped that and the only way I could have played that game was online, I would have never really been able to play it because I probably played it locally 75 to 85% of the time. And, it's just, I mean, granted, yes, I get it. Internet access is more accessible these days,
Yep.
but
It's gotten better than what it used to be, that's for sure.
yes, but there's still plenty of places that it's not up to what the standards of what you would think that they should be,
Right.
because in certain areas they don't prioritize internet access as a thing. They just
Hmm.
don't. So if you're like in a more rural area and it's not like a bigger type city atmosphere, you probably got the crappiest internet to today's standards. And so to try to even play a game that's like graphically intense is going to be just beyond a pain.
And will kill your internet
Oh
maybe
yeah.
with that. But yeah, like, and I was actually just gonna say that, at least what reading Reggie's comments. Yeah, no, I use GOG. GOG is one of the best services, I think, to get your PC games, like at least DRM free, at least for classics and stuff. But we know you need to be online for multiplayer. Like, that's just how it works. We understand
Yes.
that.
Yes.
But like you said, for single player, yeah, you shouldn't have to be online for that. Why do you need that?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah, like GOG is one of the best services. I just wish more people would put their new releases day and date on GOG,
yeah.
so that way, like, I could play it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I was just thinking, like, 'cause, we were talking like Age of Empires. I played the crap out of Age of Empires 2. Similar thing. I played a lot, uh, just local by myself, or,
Mhm.
every now and again. It wasn't very often. I'd probably say there was a handful of times where, like, there was a few of us geeks back in the day that had, the old LAN parties and stuff, and we'd be hooking
Oh,
them all
those
up. Yeah.
days. You bring your tower with
Yeah.
you. But thankfully you didn't have to carry a CRT monitor there, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, because, like, sometimes those things can be really heavy.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Those things were like the memes where it shows the power lifter guy, like, about blowing his freaking nuts out trying to carry a CRT TV. That's pretty much what it was. Those things were
Mhm.
freaking like bricks. But yeah, I mean, I I don't know. And again, it might just be because it's the generational thing. And I
Yeah.
understand that. Like, it's like I'm basing my thoughts off of how I've seen things progress. The
Mhm.
younger generations, like my nephews, they're basing it off of what they've seen. So they have limited experiences like that. So to them, this is just like, this is the way it's supposed to go. And why are you arguing about it? I don't get it. But
Like, yes, it's sadly going this way,
yeah,
and we we can just say we don't like it.
yeah,
But I feel like physical, like, yeah, we may not see as much of a presence of it there
yeah,
anymore. It's gonna become, I don't know if this is the right word to use for it, more bougie.
yeah,
It's gonna become a bougie thing.
yeah, yeah.
That's
No,
why
I
you
get
have
that.
things like your limited run or your or your strictly limited and stuff like that. I feel like that's where physical's gonna go, unfortunately.
Yeah. So
But, like, reading what everyone's saying though, right?
yeah. I mean, and I'm not saying that, if you're okay with it, if you're okay with digital, that's fine.
Mhm.
Um, I'm just speaking for myself. And, you know, if at the end of the day, that's what I got to do, I mean, I guess it is what it is. I'm not going to like it. But at the same time, I have options as well, which is how we're going to segue into our other lovely topic, which is
Mhm.
at this point, do we honestly need to make new games or buy new games? Or at the very least, do we need to buy and make them at the rate or frequency that we currently do? And before we start, I'll say the reason why I'm asking this is because I sat down one day and I kind of thought about it. And I'm just thinking, you know, from like right now, I can not buy any other game to the day I die, and I will still never play every game that was made from this point and back. You know what I mean? There's just physically not enough time in one's lifetime.
Mhm.
There's just not. So that's why I was like, that's why I thought I would ask the question at this point, do we really need to, or are we just programmed to think that we have to get new stuff as it's coming out because, well, it's new, it's shiny, I need it? It's like, but do you though? Like, you know what I mean? Do you really need it, or are you just, you're programmed because that's us as gamers. We do want something new, which I get that, but it's just,
Hmm.
one of those things. So I'll let you go on with
Start with
that. So
this.
do we need to at this point, John?
Do we need to?
Yeah,
I
do we need to?
feel like I feel like with that is I maybe it's just starting to taper off a little bit, but I feel like we're in the era now of like when the wonderful thing happened during the 2020 and 21. Things got delayed, and I feel like these were supposed to be coming out at a better pace at those times, and now we're like in the last year, like from 2022 and onward, we're seeing the effects of that now. It's just like, okay, fine. These were all supposed to come out then. Let's just shove it all out now.
Yeah.
So it's just all of that coming out. But I feel like we could be fine with it. It should be just released at a slower pace.
Yeah.
And like we were talking about earlier, if you buy games day one now, almost, it's like, oh, hey, it's out.
But
You gotta wait. Give us 6 months to fix it.
yeah. So yeah, I'll say that, like I said, in my opinion, I mean, speaking for myself, I could go the rest of my life not buying a brand new game and I would be
Hmm.
perfectly fine. Because, I mean, like I said, there's just so many new games. And that's where, again, kind of piggybacking off of what I said about not buying a next gen console, that's where I'm kind of at, because I'm just thinking about it like I feel like I'm just throwing my money away for the sake of throwing my money away, because I want to be like, well, I'm trying to keep up with the Joneses, everybody, this is what everybody's doing. I got to do it. I got to do it. And it's like, and then I had to sit there and really think like, no, I don't. I don't have to do this. I mean, I talk about it with the guys as far as like, I'm trying to go back and play so much stuff that I missed out on for various reasons. There was so much stuff from the 90s and 2000s that I completely missed out on because,
Hmm.
we didn't have a whole lot of money when I was growing up as a kid. So there was a whole slew of games that I missed out on between Genesis through SNES, Sega Saturn, PS1, all the way up to the PS2. There was so much stuff that I missed that just playing that stuff, I could probably just play all those things and I probably wouldn't get through everything that I
Yeah.
possibly could before I kick the bucket.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, no, like with that, it's just like there's a lot of things to catch up on. That's me with like the PS2 stuff because like I missed out on that generation because I mostly played original Xbox back in the day for it because that's what got me back into the consoles. So playing that route and trying to catch up with that stuff. But I feel like I think like for those that aren't getting it day one, it's FOMO basically, the fear of
Yeah.
missing out.
Yeah.
Like they want to be in on the ground level for it, where it's
Mm-hmm.
like, no, we're trying to be smarter with our money because let's face it, it's also tougher these days now too for that. So it's like unless you know you're going to play it day one, then you should buy it. Otherwise, wait for sales, wait for them to go cheaper.
Yeah.
But we know how companies are like. They need you to buy it now. They need you to buy it immediately because if you
Yeah.
don't, then there's repercussions such as studio closures or
Mm-hmm.
publishers losing money and then
Yep.
taking it out. So
Yeah.
I feel like there's that problem with it if we don't buy them day one. But consumers are getting better with it. At least I feel like we're starting to slowly. Like we don't need to immediately,
Yeah.
but it's more like we should just wait for sales or we'll get to it at some point. But we got this entire backlog that will never stop growing, right?
Yeah. It's never going to stop growing. And it's just physically, like I said, it's just physically impossible. There is not enough time to play. Now, granted, of course, there's a lot of crap games. I'm not suggesting that I'm talking about physically playing every single game that's ever been created. I'm just saying if you
Hmm.
literally made a list of all the games that you really, really wanted to play that from, say like in my case, like I said, from going as far back as the NES, um, and then going back from then to present, I mean, it'd be physically impossible. So that's why I said I kind of mentally checked myself and being like, yeah, I guess maybe I don't really need to buy anything. And similar to what Reggie said, saying they got enough ROMs and ISOs than I could ever play like 200 years worth of time. It's like, yeah, that's pretty much where it's at. It would take multiple lifetimes to play these games, but yet these companies, they've got their hooks dug in so damn deep, then they know that everyone's going to be like, but I need it. I need it. Consumerism. I need it. And it's just, and they know that we'll do it. And it's the
Yeah,
sad
and that's
reality
really
of it.
gonna do it, because it's just like, we need it now, or it's like, I get this now, I need the next thing, I gotta
Yeah.
have more, I gotta have more.
Yeah.
It's base it's basically what it is. It's come to that point. Like, we have enough,
Yeah.
yeah, as Reggie said, to last us a while, and then we're getting the classics basically being redone. Since I see there's love for Night Dive, at least in the chat. Thank you. Night Dive is awesome.
Yeah.
But even stuff like that, you have studios that are re-releasing or remastering older titles to make them work on current systems. So the cycle just basically keeps going at that point.
Yeah. So I haven't really heard too much from the chat on this subject. What are your guys' thoughts as far as, do you guys think that we need to keep making games, or at the very least maybe slow down on the frequency? Because I really do think that that's a huge problem, is the frequency, which is why you get these day one debacles, is because these companies are just too worried about pumping stuff out. And it's like, it's the whole argument of quantity over quality, and that's the
Exactly.
problem. And I mean, I believe that Caesar and I talked about this, but because we were kind of talking about stuff like that. And the last game that burnt me, and I even said it before I put my pre-order in, was Cyberpunk. And I was like, if this game burns me, I'm never pre-ordering a game ever again. And of course it did. So I was like, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, never again. I'm not doing it. Nope. Because it's just like you said, it's like, for what? Because then I gotta wait 6+ months to finally be all the
Be
way
fixed.
playable. Like, come on. I'm not playing that. No, no thanks. I'll just never do it, and I'll just wait, or I just won't buy it.
Yeah, you just wait, and you know at that point it's going to be better. Like, the ideal thing would be is that it should slow down, but that doesn't seem like it's gonna be the case. Like, that is the ideal thing.
Yeah.
Just like Reggie says, like, they're gonna be doing yearly things. Like, look at Call of Duty, look at EA, what they
Yeah.
do with their sports games. Like, those honestly need a break. They really,
Yeah.
really do.
Yeah. They do. Like, like a new Madden every year. It's like, what are you really doing to make Madden any different than you did the year before? I mean, not really much of anything. At least, I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't played Madden, I think it's since 15 came out. But I mean, up to
Hmm.
that point, I mean, you don't really start seeing any progressions until like maybe a few years in between, like say like 15 and 18. Then you can kind of see a difference. But from
Yeah.
15 to 16, there's probably really not much of a difference. But you're going to pay that, well, now $70 for a new game because, well, by God, it's new. It's,
Yeah, it's new, and also, like, you wanna know what our newest feature is? We've updated the stats so they're accurate. Yeah, and
yeah,
then that's it. That's really all it is. That's what
yeah,
you're paying for sports games.
yeah,
But no, the ideal solution is just, like, you wait a couple years. You do it at least, I would say, if you buy a sports game, 3 years. 3 years. That's
yeah,
probably the best thing, right?
yeah. So Reggie's saying asking the gaming industry to slow down would be like asking Disney to slow down on MCU movies. The investors will never let it happen. The problem is though is what's also happening with Disney. How many losses have they taken? Millions upon millions of dollars they've lost on a lot of movies because they're just trying to pump them out. And I mean, I get it. They want to try to please their investors, but the investors are
Mhm.
also seeing, well, crap, they just keep bleeding money because they're trying to just pump these movies out. Is it, at what point do we really think about things and go, maybe we have to reevaluate our approach, and maybe just pumping stuff out isn't the answer after all, like we thought it would
No.
be.
Like, it works for up to a certain point in time before you get diminishing returns, and that's basically what this is now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and every company is gonna go through that, and, like, Ubisoft is, I think, as bad as this sounds, they are the current example of this. Look at Star Wars Outlaws. Look at how well that's doing.
Exactly.
and here's hoping Shadow saves them, but I don't think that's going to be the case.
Yeah.
But no, like at some point they need to reevaluate things, and it needs to be like, okay, we don't need a continuous flow. Like, why don't you just make something until it's a polished product,
Yep.
or just like with movies, you release them like staggered, because then you're just cannibalizing your own sales.
Yep. Trying to catch up here and just reading the chat.
Yeah, see what else there is. Yeah, because a few things have come up.
So Ubisoft is going to lose 500 million this year. I'm not saying he's wrong because I have no info to back that up or not. But if that is the case, I mean that's crazy.
Yeah,
And Shadows will be a train wreck. Too much bad press.
with what's been going on with Shadows, because they do need a win, and I thought there would have been something for Ubisoft, because like, I mean, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, like that kicked off the year well, and that game is actually a lot of fun. Like, they've been doing well with Prince of Persia, like even with the Rogue, which you haven't played the Rogue, I would recommend at least taking a look at that. I like that as a roguelike, but everything else that Ubisoft's been doing has just been it's kind of been poor decisions, poor marketing, or stuff
Yeah.
like that, and it's going to bite them, and it is now. Shadows is just going to be like that final hit. But then they also had the debacle with like the Crew earlier this year,
Yeah.
where that got shut down and there's no offline mode. But apparently they're going to be fixing that with like the Crew 2 and with Motorfest. So we'll see if that's going to be true.
Yeah, I'll just end on that note as far as that subject. Yeah,
Those, yeah.
I think that it definitely, I don't know. I'll just say that, I mean, they can keep, obviously, they're going to keep making games. I'm not suggesting they're going to not. I just was, for the
Mhm.
sake of argument, I just wanted to see what people's thoughts were as far as if they were kind of thinking similar thoughts, maybe not the same, but similar thoughts to myself as far as did you actually feel that you needed to continue purchasing games or do you guys felt like they needed to continue making games up to this point because there's just too many because it's just the supply far exceeds what the demand could ever be by somebody. I mean, it's
Exactly.
so
You're not
vast.
you're not wrong about that.
Yeah. I guess I'll let the chat. If you guys got any topics while you have us here, feel free to post them up in the chat, and I'll in the time being while you guys are kind of thinking about what you might want to hear us discuss, I'll just take this time out to thank John for coming on and hanging out with me this evening, and taking the time to talk about some good gaming stuff. I felt like we had a great conversation today. How about you?
Yeah. It was fun. I'm glad we finally got to do this. And it's been a really entertaining night. I want to say
Oh
thank
yeah,
you for having me on here for this.
absolutely. Anytime, man.
And I
As long as the schedules meet up, we're good.
Yeah, and if it doesn't, we just blame time differences.
Yes.
So, yeah, because that's normally the real crime here. It'd be like, "Oh, wait, you live in the future, I live in the past.
Yeah,
How are
exactly.
we going to make this work?"
Oh gosh. But if you guys have not already, please subscribe to John McBond's channel. I got it in the description below, as well as our lovely Super Retro Force members. That some of them are currently here in the chat with us. Mr. Radbash is still with us, and Scorpio. Mr. Caesar,
Yep,
he's hanging in there with us. No,
because
Belmont
he
was
was your
here
guest on
earlier.
your last one,
Yes, and
right?
he was a guest on the last one that we did. So feel free to check those guys out on their solo channels, and of course, our team channel. You guys will not be disappointed, I promise you. Make some solid, good content over there. Very good as well. And
Mhm. Which I will plug, like, if you haven't seen the music video, you really should.
oh, that was
It's
really well put
got some
together.
really It was really well done, and that was
Yes.
actually a fun one
Yeah.
to see and even be a part of. So I
Yeah.
can't wait to see where that series continues on
Oh
because
yeah.
there's so much in the library that you can go through for that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's so much great video game music, and I know, I believe I think I talked to Caesar about that. I said like my wife, she's like, she kind of looked at me sideways like when like I said something about like I don't like I can't say I like deeply listen to video game music. There's just certain video game music that I can listen to, and she's like,
Hmm.
"Are you listening to video game music right now?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why?" And it's just kind of I get this look like you're weird. I'm like, "What's wrong with it? It's just music. It's just it
Yeah,
happens to be
no,
from a video game. It's not like it's the
it's just
worst thing in the world."
no, no, no. You could be listening to terrible. You could be listening to terrible things. There are
Oh
much
yeah.
worse things out there.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, hey, music is, and if you enjoy it, that's all that matters, right?
So Reggie's asking, how do you fellows feel the state of video game journalism is? It's like Gamergate has come back for a second round. Kotaku editors challenging YouTubers to actual physical fights. I'll be honest, this is just me.
Hmm.
I'll let you elaborate, John, because it sounds like you
Yep.
got some thoughts. I personally could
You
care
go
less
first.
about video game journalism because a long time ago I gave up on it because as most people know, at least ones that I talk to, anyways. I hate politics and anything. I really don't care. And once stuff like that started getting immersed into things, I'm like, yep, I'm done because I really don't care. It doesn't matter if it's if even if it aligns with whatever views I have, I don't want to hear about it. When I'm gaming, I just want to play a game. I don't care about all these other things. I want to play a video game and that's it. And if I'm reading articles that have to do with all that stuff, I'm just like, you know what? I'm good. I just don't care. So what they're doing, I honestly have no idea about because I don't follow it. So that's my take, John. Feel free to air your thoughts.
Yeah, when it comes to that, just like when it comes for like video game journalism, it's just like it's in a bad place, and I feel like everyone the ones that are doing it now. It's just like, yeah, you're pushing a political agenda, you're trying to push your side of things with views. It's more like, can we just get back to what we are supposed to be talking about? Tell me about the game, tell me how it plays,
Yeah,
give me your opinion on at least how you feel the game plays. I don't need anything else that comes into mind with that.
yeah,
It's basically now I'm just looking at whatever I see for video game journalism now. It's just more like, okay, here, this game got announced. Here's what it's about. And here's the release date, or here's new screenshots. That's basically what it's come down to at this point.
yeah,
Why can't we just go back to having fun with things? Because now it just seems like, no, you must have this. It doesn't have this.
yeah,
You're out. This game sucks.
yeah. Because that's something
Because I
that.
know,
Oh, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
go
Go
on.
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. I don't want to
Okay.
screw up your
Now I was
thought.
gonna say because we're seeing that like with the Kotaku editor challenging YouTubers to physical fights would be like, yeah, no, no, I can't trust anything you say. And even with older games coming out, like I know there's some issues going on, or people are making a big deal with like the state of say Lollipop Chainsaw,
Yeah,
with that, like some like journalists are not going to review it. It'd be like, okay, fine, I don't need your opinion on this anyway. If
yeah,
you have a dumb reason for this,
yep. No, I get it. Um,
it's dumb.
it is. I mean, I won't go down the rabbit hole too much, but I mean, I've kind of had talks with people, some of the guys in the groups about this in general. I hate that this is the state of, excuse me, not only just gaming, but just media in general.
Hmm.
It's like, what are we living in North Korea? Like everything has to be politicized for what? Like why can't we just make TV shows and movies that just have a story and that's it? Or games that just they do what they do and they entertain you and that's it. Why do we need all these extra stupid layers that people are forcing? I just don't understand it, and it makes me think about there was a podcast I did with a buddy of mine a little over a year ago, and I can't remember the website. I got it. I know I got it on my browser saved, but it was something where he said you can like look up old websites like IGN from like years ago when IGN was good. I'm like looking at stuff and I'm
Hmm.
going, "Oh my god. Like this was like to me again, it's like it was a part of like peak gaming. Not only did I get a good gaming experience, but I could go somewhere and like find cheats or whatever, and then read articles that were about the games themselves, and there was none of this narrative pushing nonsense. It was just good dialogue about whatever the game was, and maybe whatever the critiques may be, but that was it.
Yeah.
And why can't we do that? I just don't understand it. It drives me mad, John. It drives me mad.
You're not wrong about that. It's the same thing. You'd be like, you need to go back to what the games were. Like, just talk about the games, talk about how much fun they were. I wouldn't mind seeing a walkthrough or reading a guide or seeing cheats, sharing our thoughts with it, not be like, oh, hey, you don't have this in this game, so therefore this is bad. Or, you
Yeah,
must think this way. This is what it needs to be. No. And it feels like with gaming journalism, no, we can't really trust that anymore. Again, unless it's
yeah,
just like, like I said, we're talking about a new game coming out or a release date. That's why most of this stuff has been moving away from like that, and we're going to like YouTube or we're going to other forms of content to say
yeah,
like, okay, here's this, and this. Because let's face it, I'd rather hear from some fans or people who know what they're talking about and just keep it strictly on the games
yeah,
than pushing, let's just say, BS.
yeah. No, I'm right there with you, man. I couldn't agree more. Um, well, I guess with that, I'm not really hearing much else from anybody else, so I guess we will wrap this one up for the day. If you guys have any further topics in the future that maybe you would want me to discuss with future guests on the channel, feel free to post up in the comments section on this video. Well, it will be a video, I should say, once we go off air. It'll be in VOD
Hmm.
format. Or you can find us on Discord. You can, message me there. I mean, I'm nobody special. It's not like just because I do a channel, I think I'm like holier than art thou or something that you guys can't get a hold of me. But if you want to contact me, like, hey, I think, this would be a good topic to talk about, as long as I'm able to put some context to it, sure. I have no problems doing that. But do you have anything else you would like to add, John, before we sign off for this evening?
Again, it's just like, thank you for having me. This was fun to do. Hopefully, we can do another one in the future as
Oh,
well, because
absolutely.
I feel like these are entertaining. It's just something for us to like chat about and even bring in with people and see what they have to say. But I would say, yeah, reach out if you guys ever want to talk about anything. I love to hear what you guys have to say because I'm just like you guys. I'm just a guy who just makes content for fun and not bringing any BS to it. Let's just be here. Let's just play. Let's just enjoy and just have a fun dialogue here. But again,
Absolutely.
thank you, Roy, for having me on here.
Oh, hell yeah, man. Anytime. And of course, our lovely Super Retro Force brothers that are in the chat, of course, it'd be so great to, have a few of us on a podcast. I know I'm not
Hmm.
going to point fingers, but I know there's some of our brethren don't like the term podcast for some reason, but that's what it is. But it would be nice to have all of us, or at least, a good portion of us on to be having these discussions. I just think it'd be really cool. And I know it'd be a lot of fun because I can definitely tell from the discussions we've had, it seems like for the most part, we all pretty jive well together. And, I couldn't be happier being surrounded by the group. I mean, I even though I know the past few weeks I'm not quite as engaging in our chats and stuff, but I mean, I still try to keep up, so to speak, and read about what you guys are talking about and see what you
Same.
guys are up to. But yeah, and Brad, Roy, you're such a big YouTuber. When you let a little guy like me on, yes, I'm
Yeah,
so
sure.
huge, dude.
Oh, we'll get there one day.
Yeah,
Let's just
yeah,
keep doing what we do, and as long
yeah,
as we enjoy it, I think that's the
exactly.
thing that matters
It's all about
at the
having
end of
fun
the
at the end of
day.
the day. That's right. All right. Well, with that being said, John, thanks again. And don't, I didn't say this before we went live, but don't hang up when we go off. All right. So,
Yep.
but with that being said, thanks again, everybody, for hanging in there. And damn it, sorry, Serge, you just caught us at the tail end.
No, this happens with streams. It's just a thing. It's just a
Sorry,
thing. Oh, by the
Serge.
way, I'm here now. I'm sorry it's ending, but Serge, thank
Yeah.
you for coming by.
Yes, appreciate
Always
it,
good to
brother.
give
Taking
'em.
the time out to at least, say hi and let your presence be known that you did make the attempt to try to hang out with us. I do appreciate it. And,
Mhm.
one day we'll be able to get you on here as well, my man. But until then, thanks again, everybody, for hanging in there. Have a great week. And then
We'll
I
see you next
will